Hey everyone, ever wished you could ask a YouTube video a quick question, get a summary, or find a specific moment without watching the whole thing? Well, today I'm excited to show you how to build an agentic AI tool that does exactly that. Using AutoGen and Streamlit, we'll create a web application that lets you interact with any YouTube video. You'll be able to ask the agent to summarize the video, pinpoint when something happens, or answer all kinds of questions based on its content. I'm Mohammed and I'd love to walk you through this step by step. Let's dive in and make it happen. Oh, and if you're into agentic AI, check out my previous tutorials. There's a bunch of cool projects you can build from scratch. Okay, so we'll be doing this project in two parts. In the first part, we'll develop the agentic side, the backend side, and then in the second part, we'll develop the UI, the web application with Streamlit. And in the first part, we want to have an agent that is an LLM and can use tools. We'll develop and provide some tools for that agent. These tools can extract the title, the description, or the transcript of a video, a YouTube video, and then the agent can get a question from the user and answer it based on those information. So let's start developing the agentic part. Let's call this agent.py. So we'll be working with AutoGen, the most recent version 0.5, which is the stable version. And to extract the title and the description of a YouTube video, we'll be working with PyTube. And there's this library, PyTube. Let me show you. And it's pretty easy to work with. We have PyTube in Python. You can extract, you just need to have the URL of that video, and then you can extract the title and the description. But unfortunately, PyTube has recently developed, I can't say developed, but recently it has a bug. And whenever you want to extract this information, it fails and gets you a 400 error. So funny enough, there's a new library called PyTube Fix. They fixed this bug in PyTube, and you can just install it using pip install PyTube fix, and it works pretty the same as PyTube. You just need to have the URL. You'll create a YouTube object and you will pass the URL, and then you're good to go. So let's see how it works. Import PyTube fix, and let me change my Python environment. Okay. I can say from PyTubeX import YouTube. And today I'll be working with this video. Of course, you can work with any video you wish, but this is a video of one of my favorite scientists, Rich Sutton. He has recently won the Turing Award, and it was very well deserved. If you know him, then you know what he has done in reinforcement learning. And I strongly encourage you to read his well-known book, Reinforcement Learning and Introduction. It's a seminal work in reinforcement learning. It's like reinforcement learning's Bible. So this is one of his recent interviews after winning the Turing Award. And I'm going to use this video to test my application. Okay, so let's say this is my URL. I should enclose it with double quotes or single quotes. And okay, I want to extract its title. It's as easy as this one. We need to create a YouTube object, and we need to pass the URL. This is the URL. And now I can easily say, for example, yt.title or yt.description. Let's add an empty line between them. Okay, let me run this code. PythonAgent.py. Yeah, you see here's the title and here's the description. And there's another library in Python. It's called YouTube Transcript API. Let me show you. YouTube Transcript API. This one. You can also pip install this library, and then you can import it from YouTube Transcript API, import YouTube Transcript API. And unlike the PyTube fix, it doesn't get the whole URL. It gets the ID of that video. And here's how you can get the ID. You know, this is just the website, and whatever comes after this v equals is the ID of your video. And whatever starts from v equals and before this and sign. So, you know, this is just about which time the video was at that moment that I created the link. But, you know, here you can get the video ID. So if I want to get the video ID, I can just say video ID equals url.split and split with v equals. It means whatever comes before v equals will be, you know, one part, and whatever comes after it will be the next part. Or if we have multiple v equals in this string, they will all form a list, whatever comes in between them. So I need whatever comes after it, so I need this one. And then maybe there is an and sign. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's not, but to be on the safe side, I can say split whatever we have so far, split it with the and sign, and just keep whatever is before this and. So this means that we have extracted this one. And now I can just say result or transcript equals a YouTube transcript API dot get transcript of this video ID. And I can print that as well. And this returns a list of dictionary. If you can take a look at the documentation. It returns a list of dictionary, and you know, each of these dictionaries has a text key, a start key, and an end key. Well, the names are self-explanatory. The text is whatever is being said at that moment. Start is what second in, you know, as a float number, in what second does this text start, and then end is in what seconds does this text ends in the video. You can also specify different languages, but the default language is English. So let's see. Yeah, you can see we have the full transcript here. You know, we have a list of such dictionaries, each dictionary having a text, a start, and a duration. Oh, so it doesn't have end. Maybe the documentation is not the most recent version. Okay. So this is how we extract the title, the description, and the transcript from a video. And by the way, if I wanna, you know, keep it this way, there will be a problem. You know, this is a very long string because, you know, for it, not only we have the transcript, but we have, you know, these additional text, you know, this text key, this start key, this duration key. Maybe I don't really care about it. Maybe I don't want to, you know, consider the time properties of this transcript. Maybe I just want the text of that transcript. So in that case, this will be extra information. First of all, it can cause some LLMs to hallucinate. Of course, you know, nowadays the LLMs are really smart. Maybe this might not be the case for many of them. But apart from that, this means that we will transfer, you know, we will send more tokens. So this will cost more for us. So maybe we really don't need all this information if the question is not about the time properties of the transcript. So in some cases, we can just have the whole text all together as a single string, not as a list of dictionaries. So to have just the transcript text, I may call it transcript text. I can use the join function. So I can extract all of the text keys, the values associated with the text in each of these dictionaries. So I can say item dot item with for the text, and for each item in res, this will be a list that only has those text elements of each dictionary. So I can print it so that we make sure everything is going as we wish. You see, here's a list of these texts, and I wish to join all of them together. I wish to seek all of them together. So I can use the join function in Python. I can say all of these texts should join with spaces. And now if I print it, I can see all of the transcript as a text. And everything works well. Okay, so this is how we can get the transcript text. And we've also seen how to extract the title, the description, and the time properties. So here's my plan to develop the agentic part of the project. We will have a single agent. It will be an assistant agent object in AutoGen. If you're not familiar with that, don't worry about it. It's pretty easy and you'll master it once this video is done. And this agent has an underlying LLM, which will be OpenAI O3 Mini. And then it will also have two different tools. One tool is to extract the transcript with time properties. This is for questions that require, considering time properties. And then it will have another tool that only extracts, the transcript without any time properties, any time information, to save additional processes and costs. So let me wrap this few lines in two different functions. I may call the first function, and since this is an IO bound process, our processor is not doing the main task. We're just calling an API and we're waiting for that API to answer us. So in this case, the better approach is to use async IO. So I can import async IO. And if you're not familiar with async IO, don't worry about it. It's just about, not pausing everything in the program and just waiting for one function to execute. While waiting for some external resource to answer us, we can do other tasks. It may not be, really saving us in this project, but it's a good practice to, develop your functions with async IO. And by the way, functions in async mode are called coroutines. And in the previous videos, we've talked about async IO in more details. You can take a look at previous videos, such as the one that we have several agents working to develop a code, or we have several agents debating, or we have our previous video, there are two agents that answer questions about a data set. Okay, so let me wrap this up into this coroutine. Async def get video transcript, and it needs a URL. I don't want to hard code the URL in the function, obviously. So let me just move these into this function scope. And okay, we should have the title title will be yt.title, description will be yt.description, and then we have this transcript text, and I can say the result will be, and let me rename this to transcript, and also I need to rename this. Okay, the result will be a string like this. Title will be title, and then in a separate line we will have description, which will be description, and then we will have transcript. Okay, and we will return the result. So just to make sure this function works well, I can create an event loop. We need an event loop to run coroutines. So if name equals main, I can say async.io, and let me paste the URL. async.io.run. This command creates an event loop and runs the coroutine. Get video transcript with this URL. And then I can, store it in res, and I can print res. Okay, we have the result here. You can take a look. We have title, we have description, and the transcript. And in order to help the agent recognize this function and its use case pretty well, we can add documentation for the function. So it gets the URL, of a video, and returns the title, description, and transcript. And this URL will be a string, and the function will return a string as well. So this way the agent can use this tool more effectively. And I will also create a similar function, a similar coroutine, get video transcript with timestamps, maybe something like this. Again, it gets a URL, a string, and it returns a string. Everything will be pretty the same, but it will just return the transcript instead of transcript text. So let's say gets the URL of a video and returns the title, description, and transcript with timestamps. Fair enough. So these are just like what we've done. And here's the transcript, and then the res will be using just the transcript with time properties. Okay. And this will use transcript. Okay. So I can call this function now. And yeah, you can see we have the time properties as well as the text of the transcript. And by the way, I could have done this with just one function. I could have had another argument that return time, which might be true or false, and that is another approach. You can go ahead and develop the same project using that approach. The only reason I'm doing it this way is that I want to show you how to make the agent use two different tools. That's pretty straightforward, but maybe this is a good time to show how to use multiple tools. Okay. Now I have these two coroutines, these two tools, and it's time to define the agent. Just like previous videos, I would say from AutoGen agent chat.agents import AssistantAgent, and our agent needs to access an LLM. For that reason, I will import OpenAI chat completion from AutoGen x.models.openai import OpenAI chat completion client. So we'll have another coroutine, async def, let's say query, yeah, and this coroutine gets a URL of a video and a query, which is a question that the user is asking. And okay, so let's define the agent first. Agent equals an assistant agent, and we need to select a name for this agent. The name will be YouTube video proxy, for example, and we need a system message. System message will be you are a helpful assistant. You will get the URL of a video, a YouTube video, and the user will ask questions about that video. You can use the tools to answer the user's questions. If the answer to that question is not in the video, because sometimes the LLM might think that it has the answer, but the answer is not really in the video. I want to prevent this situation. You should say that you don't know the answer. Fair enough. Okay, and we need to specify the tools. So as you can see, we have a tools argument, and it should be a list of base tool object. This means any tool that is defined for AutoGen. Coroutines are considered as a tool as well. So I can pass the get video transcript and get video transcript with timestamps. And in the end, I need to specify which model, which LLM is it gonna use. So let me define the model before the agent. Model will be OpenAI chat completion client. The model will be O3 mini. And I need to provide an API key. So I have my API key in this text file. If you don't have your own API key, you can easily head to platform.openai.com and let me log in. Inside the platform, you can go to settings, and we have the API keys here. You can easily create new secret key, but please make sure you don't reveal it, you don't publicize it. You shouldn't push it to your GitHub repo. So it's safe to just have it in a separate file, because you may have several API keys. My suggestion is that you can have a separate text file, or API.key or .text, and you can just read it inside your program. So open API.text, read it and strip it. Please make sure there is no extra space at the end, and pass this model to model client. Okay, so we have the assistant agent now. Now it's time to call this agent to see if it works or not. So for an assistant agent, we have this onMessages method. Let me show you in the documentation. AutoGen documentation. By the way, I insist again, this is a very important skill to be able to read the documentation, and this can help in many different ways. One of them is that you can find answers to your questions from the main source, which is the documentation. Or even if you don't have any specific question, it's usually beneficial to just scroll the documentation. Maybe you can learn something new, and I myself find it really helpful to regularly check the documentations for the libraries I frequently use. So we need to go to agent chat part of the documentation. Here's the agents page, and here's the assistant agent. And by the way, assistant agent is derived from base chat agent. So you can see we have an onMessages and onMessages stream methods in this base class in base chat agent. It's just like the run and run stream functions for a team. Here we have onMessages and onMessages stream. And if you just call the onMessages, it will return, as you can see here, it will return the response. But onMessages stream is an async generator. It will return every dialogue, every message once it's there. So this is a better solution if you want to show in somehow a real-time manner, if you want to display the chats in a real-time manner. So let's use this one. And this is documentation. You can see for onMessages stream, you need to pass a messages, which will be a sequence of base chat message. And you also need to pass a cancellation token. A cancellation token is an object that you will pass to this method. The advantage of using cancellation token is that sometimes you wish to cancel a process while the agent is trying to come up with the answer. So in that case, I'm sure you've seen, for example, in ChatGPT, there is this square button. Whenever it's trying to generate the response, you hit it and everything stops. That is what cancellation token is for in AutoGen. So we need, and since the onMessages stream is an async generator, we need to iterate over it. So we need an async for message in agent.onMessages stream, and now we need to provide the messages. It will be a list of base chat message, and the class of messages that is usually being used in AutoGen for chats between agents is text message. We've seen it in previous videos. So let me import the text message object from AutoGen agent chat.messages, import text message. And I also need to import the cancellation token from AutoGen core, import cancellation token. Okay. So I will create a text message here. And the text message needs a source and content. The source will be user here because this is coming from user. And the content will be the query that the user is asking. But let me call it task for now. And I will create task before this for loop. Because I don't want to just include this query, I also want to include the URL of the video, and then the agent having that URL can call the tools and get the transcript, the title, the description, and answer the question, the query based on those information. So I would say this is the URL of the video URL, and then we will have the query. Okay, so we have the first argument now. We have a list of messages. It's just one element, one message there. And then we need to provide the cancellation token. So cancellation token will be a cancellation token object. And for now, I will just print whatever this message is. We can then inspect it and see what different kinds of objects we have. Let me clear my terminal and okay, we have this query now. This is my URL and this is my query. Summarize the video in 2 sentences. Okay. And now I will run the query with URL and the query. Maybe I can, to avoid namespace pollutions, I will name it a different thing. Query agent. Or maybe I can say ask agent. This is better. Now I will call this coroutine. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so an extremely ugly output. Well, we have the source here, and then we have a function call. You can see we have a function call. So we have different messages separated by new lines. So this is the first message. It is a tool call. You see, it's coming from YouTube video proxy, our agent, our only agent, and the agent has requested to call this tool, to call the get video transcript with timestamps. This is not correct because our question is not concerning the time properties. So ideally it was supposed to just call the get video transcript, not the with timestamp version. I can also specify that after this. But you see it got the transcript. And we have no further message here. So we don't have the final message here. The reason is that we have this argument whenever we wish the agent to use tools. It is called reflect on tools. Reflect on tool use. So it is by default none or false. This means that we will have no reflection on the tool output. But if we set this to true, after calling the tool, the agent will also, use the LLM to somehow process that output. So I need to set this one to true. And I need to explicitly declare for the agent that whenever the question is not about time properties, you should just use the first coroutine, the first tool, get video transcript. And when the question is about timestamp, about time properties, then you need to call the second coroutine, the second tool. Okay, so let me declare it here. If the question needs to consider time properties, you should use the get video transcript with timestamps tool. Otherwise, you should use the get video transcript tool. Fair enough. And for better visualization, let me insert some, some dashes between each message. Okay, let's have 50 of these and Let me clear the terminal and let me run it again. Okay. So now we have this function call. It is called, you can clearly see, it is called get video transcript. This is the correct usage. We have the output of the tool here. And then we have the response. And the response has, the response object has a content, which is the final answer. You can see in this video, Rich Sutton, a Turing Award winner, engages in a reflective conversation with Cam Link about the evolution of reinforcement learning, emphasizing the foundational idea of learning from experience through rewards and penalties. They also discuss the importance of humility, continual inquiry, and challenging established norms in science to drive meaningful breakthroughs in artificial intelligence. This is a really good answer. And then we also have the inner messages that was used, inside the agent. This is essentially the same as what we had earlier, what we saw, above the response object. But, we have this response object once the agent is totally done. But when it is progressing and it is, calling the tool and getting an answer, you see, we have just different types of messages. So, okay, if I want to just extract the final answer, I can easily say, I can use the chat message, and then the chat message is a text message. I can access its content element. As you see, these internal messages are pretty ugly. First of all, I would like to see if the agent has called the tool. I would like to see which tool and what were the arguments. This is totally good. But I don't want to see, for example, the whole output. This is just too much. I don't want to see this long transcript. So I can also process these messages, these inner messages, just to see what types of objects they are. Let me also print their type instead of their content. So if I call this once more, if I run the app once more, okay, you can see these are different objects. We have a tool called request event, we have a tool called execution event, and then we have this response. And you can see how to import them as well, because we need to check their types and behave differently based on their types. So I would say from AutoGen agent chat.messages import, I had it earlier. I need to import tool call request event and tool call execution event. The request event is when the agent is gonna call the the tool, and the execution event is for when we have the result from the tool. Okay, so I can also check the documentation for these objects. Agent chat messages. We have tool request event and tool execution event, and they have content, they have type, they also have a toText method. It converts the message content to a string only representation that can be rendered in the console. So print message.toString, to text. This is much better, but let me see. Yeah, this is much better, and we have an error because the response object doesn't have a toText method. So I can check for this. If message is an instance of response, and how can I, check the response type? I can see it here. This is the response object. I can import it this way from AutoGen agent chat dot messages dot base dot chat agent dot response. Import response. Okay, now I can check if message is an instance of response, then just print message dot chat message dot content. Otherwise, it will be a function call, a tool call. So just print message dot toText. And between each two consecutive messages, I want to print a bunch of dashes like this. Let me clear the terminal and run it again. Okay. You see we had a function call, and then here's the result, and this is the final answer. Okay. And that's it. And we have a none here. You can think about this, why we have a none in the end. First of all, do you think it comes from the agent? The agent has returned a none at the end of its response, or is it coming from somewhere else? The answer is right now on the screen. So I encourage you to think about it, look at the code you're seeing right now. But you can maybe you can pause the video and think about it. If you really think about this for a minute and you cannot figure out this none, then go ahead and see the rest of the video. Otherwise, I encourage you to pause here for a minute and really think about it. And if you know the answer, congratulations. You have a very good understanding of how Python works. The reason for having this none is that, I've returned the result of this, event loop, which is, running this coroutine inside the res. And you see in the coroutine, I'm not returning anything. So it will return none in the end. And this means that res will be none. And when I say print res, it will print none. So if I execute this again, there will be no none in the end. Okay, you see. So now we have a quite working backend. The agent can really respond to our questions about the video. Let me just try it with some other queries. For example, I may say, does he mention any of his former students? And let me clear and run it again. I haven't watched this video yet, so I really don't know the answer. It has called the with timestamp function. not a very good use of the tools, but let's see. I looked through the transcript and I didn't find any explicit mention of his former students in the conversation. Okay. And what can we do to prevent this from happening? I don't want it to use the timestamp version when the question is not about time properties. Maybe I can change the system message and make it more clear. If the question is asking when a particular event is happening, you should use this one. Otherwise, you should use the other tool. Okay, let's see now. Okay, this is the correct usage of the tool now. And the same final answer. I checked the transcript and did not find any mention. Could you clarify if you meant a different part of the conversation? No, it's what I meant. Okay. So let me ask another question as well. Does he mention any of his former colleagues, or maybe any of his colleagues? I hope the answer is yes. Yes, he does mention some of his colleagues. For example, he talks a lot about his interactions with Andy, including a conversation they had after finding out about the award and so on and so forth. And also we have a manual here. Okay, so maybe I can ask, I just want to test this agent. I want to see how good it is. And this is really interesting to me. Tell me all the times that he talks about Andy. Now the agent should call the tool with timestamps. Yes, you see. Good. Okay. At 26 seconds, when someone says, oh, and make sure Andy is there, at 70 seconds, when he asks, what's that conversation with Andy after you guys found out? And a bunch of, more timestamps. I don't like this kind of reporting times. I wanted to report in the standard format. Let me also specify this in the system message. When you are reporting a time in the video, you should use the format, this format. And let's ask the same question again and see if we have improvements. Okay, this is great. And let me play the video and see if these results are actually valid. So for example, it says that at 26 seconds, he mentions, oh, and make sure Andy is there. Let me check.
And I've
26.
Somewhere near the end, she said, oh, and make sure Andy is there.
Good. And for example, at 5:36 when he recalls that Andy and I have been like a fixed point. Let me see. 5:36.
Andy and I have been like a fixed point.
Good. So now we have a working backend. The agent can really answer our questions about the video. And one last check. Let me also check. Let me ask a question that does not exist there. Does he mention Lionel Messi? Okay, I didn't find any reference to Lionel Messi in the transcript. Okay, fair enough. So it's now time to develop the front end side. So let me create a new script, app.py. We'll be working with Streamlit like the previous videos. Import Streamlit as st. Okay. So I like to create a minimal UI. So let's say we have a title, chat with YouTube videos. Okay. And then I need a text input to get the URL. So URL will be st.textInput. Enter the URL of the YouTube video. And let's see what we have so far. Streamlit run app.py. Okay, chat with YouTube videos, and here's the URL. Good. And just like previous videos, I need a container to display the messages inside that container. So I would say chat container will be st.container. And I also need a chat input element to be able to get the prompt from the user. So prompt will be st.chatInput, and the placeholder is ask a question about the video. Okay, this is enough. And for example, just to show you the logic, I can say if prompt and URL, meaning that if both prompt and URL were there and the user had entered something for each of them, then with chat container, inside this container, just write down, I can even display the exact prompt for now. So let's run the code again, and this might be any URL and this might be any prompt. Let's say prompt. Okay, and you see we have it here. So the only part remaining now is to connect the backend to the front end. So just like the previous videos, I don't want to do all my backend stuff in one coroutine. I want to have a separate coroutine or a separate function to create the agent and a separate coroutine to orchestrate the agent. So let me move these two statements, model and agent definitions, into a new coroutine. I will call it config agent async def config agent. It doesn't get any argument, and in the end it will return the agent. And inside, and for the ask agent coroutine, I need to get the agent as the very first argument, and then the URL, and then the query. Everything is all right here. Let me have a main coroutine just to be able to make this agent.py script standalone, make it work even without the UI. So we have a main with the URL and a query. And inside this main, I would say agent equals await config agent, and then ask the agent to answer the query based on the URL. Okay, and when I'm creating the event loop, I will run the main coroutine. So let's see. I expect the agent to run smoothly. Agent.py. Okay, you see it's working. And by the way, I don't even need this config agent to be async because it's not an IO bound process. I'm not waiting for any, input output. I'm just defining it myself. So, and it's pretty fast, and I'm just calling it once. So for all these reasons, I can just, define it in synchronous mode. And this needs to be called just in the regular way. Okay, so this code should work again. Let me ask a more meaningful question like this one, just to make sure the code works. Yes. Okay, so now I can import these two functions from agent, import config agent and ask agent. And I also need to import async IO. It's better to move this to the second line. So now I can, whenever a prompt is entered and we have a URL, I need to create a separate event loop. And in that event loop, I will run this coroutine, this ask agent, to provide the answer to the prompt. So let me define this coroutine. I would say async def, let's call it main. It gets the URL and the prompt, and it will create an agent, and then it will ask the agent to answer the prompt, the question based on the URL. And this is fine, but again, just like the previous videos, I can continue doing it this way and everything will be fine. But I wanna, access each message at the same instant that the message is created. I don't want to, access all of the messages in the end. I don't want to wait a lot. So one thing I can do is that instead of having the coroutine like this, I can make it an async generator. Instead of just printing it, I can yield it. So I can call this a message, and then I can yield the message. Okay. And the same goes on here. So this will be a message, and I will yield this message. Okay. So here's what we have. And okay, here's what we have. And now I need to iterate over this generator, this async generator. I can say async for message in AskAgent. And here I can process each message once we have it. So in the most basic way, I can just say with chat container inside our chat container, st, and just display it as a message. So with st dot chat message, and the message is coming from the assistant or AI, st dot markdown, render it as a markdown message. So this should be working fine. I can also, and I need to create an event loop from this one, like this, async.io.run main with URL and prompt. And I can also put this inside a spinner object, st.spinner, generating response. Okay, so let me run the app now. I need to copy the URL, and I can say summarize the video in one sentence, generating response, and let's see. Okay, so you can see the problem. It's working, but it's extremely ugly. So we have a function call here, and this is the function called result. It called the get video transcript, and then this is the result. And after we have the result, we have this response object. And inside this response object, the final answer is in chat messages, the content. So the video features Turing Award winner Rich Sutton engaging in a candid conversation with Cam Link about the evolution. Okay, so we have the result here, but this is extremely ugly, and I don't want to, do it this way. So let's modify the UI to make this better. First of all, instead of yielding the string of the message, it's fine for the final message. I like to do it this way. But for the inner messages, I don't like it this way. I don't want to yield a string. Let's just print the string, the to text. But when I'm going to yield it, I will yield the MSG instance, because this will be a different class other than string, and then based on the type of the class I can behave differently in my UI. So I will go to app.py, and now I need to decide what to do based on the type of each message. And I would like to introduce a new function. I will call it show message. It gets a chat container object and the message, and based on what we have, it will render the message differently. So I would say with chat container, okay, if message is a string, if is instance message and string, this means we have the final result. So just render it as a chat message, with st.chat message from assistant, or it can be AI, no difference. Render it as a markdown. And otherwise, else, this means that the object is not is not the final result, else with sc.chat message from again AI, but I would like to just render message dot to text, and I would like to render it. I don't like to do it this way. Okay, let me put it inside an expander object. This is just, I'm sure you've seen this element. This is one of the elements that can be collapsed or expanded, and the label will be inner message, something like this. So let's see what we have. Let's run it again. So here's the URL, and here's my question, summarize in one short sentence, generating response. Oh, sorry, I forgot to call this show message. So whenever I have a message, instead of rendering it here, I would like to call the show message function. And I need to pass the chat container and the message object. Run it again. Here's the URL, and here's my prompt, summarize in a short sentence. Okay, you see, we have an inner message, we have another inner message, and oh, okay. We have an error, and you can see the error here. By the way, it is extremely important to be able to, read an error effectively and figuring out what's going on and how to solve it. So it says that response object has no attribute to text. What does this mean? This means that, we had a function tool call, so we could handle this object effectively, and then we had another object. This is, the result of that tool. Again, this is fine. And then we had a response object apparently, and we called the toText for that response object. So I may need to specify the condition. I don't want to render the response object, so I can just easily say, first of all, I need to import the response object, or those two other objects, those two other classes, tool call request event and tool call execution event. So I can say import these two, and inside my show message, instead of saying if this is a string, do this, else, use an expander, I can specify the exact condition. Elif, it is an instance of a tool called request event, use an expander and say tool call request, something like this. And if it is a tool call execution event, have an expander and say this. And this way I will not bother with the result object, the response object. So let's run the code again. Let me copy the URL. And here's my prompt. Summarize in one short sentence. We have a tool called request, we have a tool called execution, and oh, it didn't render the final result. Let me see why is that. So if it's a string, do this one, and we're calling this for almost, for all of the messages. So what might be the problem? I must have forgotten something. This is a very good moment to think about it, and you can also, think about it if you don't already know what's going wrong. So let me inspect this agent, and there must be something wrong here. And there is something wrong here. I need to return a string here because, whenever it is my final response object, I want to just return the message, the chat message, the content. I want to return the final answer, not the whole response object. So this should be working now. Let me check it one more time. This is the URL, and summarize in 3 words. Let's make it challenging. Okay, we have the final answer here. Based on the discussion's emphasis on the central role of learning from feedback and working together without a fixed authority, a 3-word summary could be experience fuels discovery. This is nice. And now we have a working UI. You can chat with it. You just saw how it works. But I'm not satisfied yet. There is 1 or 2 more things I can do to improve this application. So think about it. What do you think is, the main things I can do to improve this one? And what problems do we have right now? Of course, we can chat. You saw, we can chat with the video. We can ask a question and it will answer. But there are, again, 2 problems with this version I would like to address. To show you the problems, let me do it this way. What did I just ask? Okay, you saw the problems, both of them at the same time. First of all, our previous chat has disappeared. We have no longer access to it. We don't like this. We want to, see all of our previous chats. And secondly, you provided the YouTube URL and then asked, what did I just ask? So this isn't the correct answer. This shows that the agent doesn't have memory. And of course it doesn't have memory because I'm creating the agent each time I have a new prompt. I call this coroutine. It creates a new agent, and the agent provides the answer. So it doesn't have memory. So what can I do to overcome these 2 problems? Well, to keep the previous chats, I can have, a messages list. And once I have any chat, I can append it to that list. And initially, I can display all of the previous chats. So let's do it. We have st.session messages. And the whole point of session messages in session state in Streamlit is that, the logic of Streamlit works as whenever there is an event on the web application, whenever you click something or a text changes, it runs the whole script from the beginning to the bottom. So we need to take care of this logic when we're developing Streamlit applications. And well, this is the logic, and the whole point of session states is that they are kept and they are, retained across different renders, different executions of that script. So I can check if we already have, then I don't bother. But if we don't have messages, I will create a new list and, store it as messages. So if messages not in st.sessionState, then I will define st.sessionState.messages as an empty list. And whenever I have a new message, I will append it to session state messages. So I will say st.sessionState.messages.append message. And I will show it immediately. But before processing the prompt, I would like to display all the previous chats if we have any previous chat. So I would say for message in st.sessionState.messages, show that message. Just as simple as this, because we already have a show function here. Okay. So if I run the application now, the first problem should be fixed. So here's the URL, and summarize just one simple prompt. It had a tool called request, and this is a summarization. And if I ask a second question, for example, who is the main character? Now I will, you see, my previous messages are still there, even after answering this one. Based on the transcript, the main character is Turing Award winner Rich Sutton. I still have my previous messages, but we still have the memory problem. What did I ask at the first place? You see, it doesn't know it. The very first question you asked in the video was essentially, thank you for coming. Oh, it it thought that I am the interviewer. Okay. So you see, it doesn't have memory. So how can we keep the memory? We have the messages, we have the history of messages to visualize, but the agent really doesn't have the memory. So there are several ways I can pass the memory to the agent. One is to keep track of the memory myself, and whenever I am calling the onMessages stream, you see here, instead of just passing one user prompt, I can pass all of the previous history, and this way the agent knows exactly what is happening. Another way to keep the memory is that I can define agent outside this coroutine. But the problem is that, these agents in AutoGen, they're bounded to an event loop. And once I want to, create a new event loop using asyncio.run, the agent is lost, and I cannot, it will produce an error. So I can solve that problem as well. I can create a single event loop at the beginning and always use that one. Use the run until complete method in asyncio. If you're familiar with that, please go ahead and do it that way. This is a really good practice. But I want to do it in a more agentic way because the agents have methods to load and save state. So let me do it that way. So whenever I'm done with the agent, I want to save its state as a session state variable. So I can say, after this is done, after the coroutine has been executed, I want to return the agent dot save state. So this will return the agent state for me, and I will keep it as agent state here, and I will save it as st.session.state.agent state. Okay, and then once I've created the agent, I would like to check if I have a previous agent state. I would like to load that state. So if agent state in st.session state, agent.load state, this agent state. Okay. So I believe this should fix the problem. Let me check. This is the URL, and I would say summarize in 3 words. The agent is calling the tool. Experience, ambition, humility. Good. And then now I can ask, what did I just ask? You provided a YouTube video URL and then asked, what did I just ask? Okay. What was my very first question? It has called the tools. It's a little bit strange. Your very first question in the video was when you said, can you tell us how you found out? Oh, it's again mistaken me with the interviewer. Let me see if everything is all right here. Let me check the code, and then maybe I'm testing it in the wrong way. Okay. If we have agent state, then load it. And once you're done, then save the agent state as agent state. And it seems that we're good to go. Oh, we have errors, right? Yeah. We have errors here. Okay. Oh, these are async methods. I should await them. So let me say agent state equals await agent.saveState, and then I will return agent state. And then once I want to load it, I should also await agent.loadState, this one. So let me check and see if everything's fine now. This is the URL. Does he mention any of his colleagues? Yes, he does. For example, he talks about getting a phone call where someone said, make sure Andy is there. Okay. Who is the first colleague? Who is the first one you just mentioned. Okay, let's see if it can answer this one. I'm expecting it to answer it's Andy. Yeah, the video transcript only tells us about that he was told to make sure Andy was present. What was my first question I asked about this video? Yeah, does he mention any of his colleagues? This is correct. And one other problem we have right now, I just figured this out. We're not displaying the user's prompt here. So let me also add the user's prompt as well. So whenever we have a prompt, I would like to first of all show it and then add it to the messages. So if we have prompt, I would say append it to the messages, but you see, poor suggestion from Copilot. Append the prompt and show message, the chat container, and the prompt. And for this prompt, I would like to show it differently. So I would say append this one. Append user and then the prompt. Okay. And then show this one. And inside the show message function, I would say initially check if it's a string, then check. If it starts with user, then you need to render it as a user's message. Otherwise, you need to render it as AI's message. Okay, this should be fine. Let me see. This is the URL. Oh, okay. This is the URL. And who is the main character? You see, this is our message. The main character is the Turing Award winner, Rich Sutton. Who is the colleague he mentions a lot, for example. The colleague he mentions a lot in the video is Andy. Good. And who is Andy? Let's see if the agent answers. What do you expect? Do you expect it to answer or not? The video doesn't explicitly give Andy's full name, but however, based on the context and what is well known in the field, Andy is Rich Sutton's longtime research colleague. It's actually Andrew Barto, yeah. So, and we have the user's message now. And one other thing, let me see if this works or not. My very first video in my YouTube channel doesn't have timestamp. Let me see if it can come up with a timestamp for that video. So let me go back to that video of text, but it doesn't know if it. Okay, this is my very first YouTube video. Let me pass it to our application and see if it can come up with a timestamp for it. So this is the video. Generate a timestamp for the main events in the video. generate a YouTube timestamp. Maybe this may be better. Okay. It would be super cool if it can come up with these timestamps. And you see it has used the correct tool, the tool with timestamps. And okay, there it is. We have the timestamp, we have the introduction, we have scenario overview, multi-agent concept, code setup, agent initialization, critic agent setup, LLM configuration, and API key. Yeah, we have the main timestamps. Okay, so that's it. We have a quite working web application. You can chat with YouTube videos. You just need to copy the URL of that video and ask any question you have about that video. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I strongly encourage you to go on and do this yourself. Try to be creative. Do it with other methods. It is really important to be able to start from scratch and develop a full app maybe in 1 hour or maybe even in less than an hour if you're a fast coder. And if you have any comments about this video, if you have any suggestions for the next videos, any topic you have in mind that might be interesting, please go on and comment it, and I will make sure to record tutorials on the interesting suggestions. So that's it from me, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and take care.